Hope you all are there. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone today? I'll just start. I was talking to you about conflicts and negotiations. So I'm on, I think, slide 38. All right? I'm on slide 38. Please go. Negotiation is something that everyone does almost daily. See, we do small bargaining with the person who sells vegetable or someone, who brings the push cart in front of our house. We buy vegetable and then he'll say 45 and we'll say maybe you could give me for 40 or something like that. Forget the money part. Okay. These days, good morning, Sepide. Sepide, I'll send you a letter today. I want to draft it myself. I'll send it today. All right. And you have stopped talking to me about this thing PhD topic. Now, Sepide, I want to tell you about this PhD topic. See, PhD cannot be done in a very big, on a very huge topic. PhD is done on a small topic in a minute way, in a detailed way. You pick up a small topic, in a big topic, you'll get many, many issues. You take a small issue and you do a complete study of that small issue. This is what is a PhD. It's not like a project. In the project, you take something like digital marketing and you do the entire digital marketing. This is not like that. Emmanuel, good morning. Bharat, good morning. What you do is, for example, in digital marketing, you have seven different types, say SEO, SEM, etc. So maybe you take SEO, okay, and then or SEM if you want to do in marketing. SEO also will do, or content marketing or pay per click. Let's say PPC, pay per click. So what is the meaning of pay per click? Who uses pay per click? Pay per click. Which companies use pay per click? How it is benefiting them, and how the consumer is benefiting. That too, not everybody. If you are doing pay per click, you could do for services, or you could do for a particular, in the industry you could do for a particular sector. A sector could be, say, FMCG sector. In the FMCG sector, you must take some goods. How the pay per click impacts the digital marketing or the online marketing of, say, some products. Not all FMCG. Say durables like the refrigerator or the washing machine, or non-durables like bath soap or shampoo. Hmm? Maybe shampoo and bath soap. So it has to be a small topic, and it has to be done in a deep study on a small topic, not a general this thing on a big topic. All right, this is the way you should look at the PhD topic, not very big topics. Okay, so think about it and get back to me. I will help you. All right. Now we're talking about negotiation. We do negotiation like, we'll say I'm buying papayas. There's a push cart in front of my house, and then he'll say, he'll put three papayas. I'll say no, I want only two. Please take it out. Give me the bigger two ones, not the smaller three ones, or something like that. There's a negotiation, that this negotiation will be win-win. I'll give you the money, but you give me a combination. For example, I want a fat round papaya, I want a long papaya, something like this. I tell him, well, give me one of that, and all that. No, give me the other one that looks more nice, fresher, something like this. We do negotiations in all our daily lives. Mamta, good morning, Mamta. Okay. See, there are two types of negotiations. I'm reiterating what I said. One could be to resolve some conflict, and the second one could be to gain a new relationship or a new partnership or something like that. So, negotiation is a complex and dynamic process. It's a complex process because we do not understand everything that goes. Yama, good morning. How are you, Yama? How is everything in Afghanistan? Okay, so I'm talking about negotiation being complex. Complex because we do not, it's not simple, no, wherever, see, please remember that wherever there are interpersonal relationships involved, it is hardly simple, okay? Gangadhar, good morning. I was telling you the simplex method is a complex method, but then we managed to make it simple. So, how do we make complex things simple? By trying to understand what is happening. Okay, we may not understand everything. Now, see, when I was teaching systems analysis and design, that is a course where, say, a computer savvy person, an IT person, comes into, say, our department. Now, there can be different situations in a department. Say, we have 56 university departments. There can be different situations in the department. I'm not saying currently, I'm saying previously. Now we are very much ahead in internet facility, everything. Bangalore University as well. Imagine before, about 15 years ago. You come to, say, the systems analyst, who is a tech savvy person, comes into a department, and there can be different situations. One is you don't have systems at all. When I say systems, we say computer, I'm meaning computer based information system, CBIS. You don't have a system at all. I'm talking about hardware as well as software. You have no idea. I mean, you have an idea, but you don't have systems at all. Maybe you have computer systems, but you're not using them for computer based information systems. All right. So the systems analyst has to understand there are no systems, what hardware, what software to buy. Why? Because there is an opportunity. Look at it like this, up in the sky. There is an opportunity in the market, and here means it is available in the market, but you don't have it in the department. So this is the situation. This is the situation here, and that's the situation there. So you have to tally and bring the market, whatever is available, into the department. So this is the first situation where there is hardly any computer based information systems. Now the second thing is you have information systems, but they are insufficient in the market. Up there, for example, if you are saying like this, up there in the market, you're getting very good sophisticated systems. Here the systems what are existing are not there. This could be the, they're not up to the mark. This could be the second kind of situation. All right. And the third kind of situation is you have very good systems, but you want to improve. All right. You have very good systems, but in the market you say there are better and you want to improve. So that's the third situation. Fourth situation is you're very good, but very good, excellent, on par with the market, but you want to set up benchmark practices. All right. So there are various situations where the systems analyst and design comes, and he has to understand what is the requirement and match it to what is available. You understand? So this is what happens where systems analysis and design takes place. A systems analyst may have done 150 or 200 projects, but he has to remember that every single different project is different from the previous one, because people are different, their needs are different, their situation is different, their context is different. All right. So similarly, in negotiations, it is a complex process because you just can't understand uh, every situation. All right. See, common sense is sometimes a rare sense. I had a friend who showed me under the chin here. She was a bank employee. She had developed a small darkened patch, dark brown patch. And when she was talking to me, she was itching it like, like this. She would, it was itching, so unconsciously she would do like this. Then she told me, see, I've developed this darkened patch, and I don't know why, and it's very irritating me, and it's on my face. It's not nice. Then I realized that I went to visit her in the bank because she was in the bank where I was depositing money, and I was going there. So Kumar Chavan, good morning. So I realized that she was writing, and with her pen she was scratching, this thing. Then I told her one simple thing. I said, "See, your pen you're giving to customers and you're taking it back." Okay, this is not during Corona times. It was much some years ago. You're giving to your customers and you're taking it back. You're holding it in your hand. So many people have held it. It could be sweaty hands because it was summer. Sweaty hands. People have gone to the market and they've taken your pen and they've given it back to you, and you have your pen. So your hand is not clean. You need to wash your hands. And secondly, your pen. You have used your pen which someone has used like this once, and there the skin must have gone. So over and over again, because of the itching, you're trying, and and scratching, itching, scratching it with your pen also because the itch is so much. So then I told her it's also dry skin. So this is like I'm talking about common sense. Why, if I was in the situation, I had this, I would not have seen the situation. You want someone to see it from the third bird's eye view. A third person has to see it, and I was the third person there. So I told her, just stop touching. Keep a tissue or a handkerchief and wipe your pen every time. The wet one, wipe it, because she can't get up every time. The customers are so many. And then, moisturize your face. The itch is mostly because of not cleaning. And secondly, this one, what to say, dry skin. But don't moisturize it so much that dust will sit. And with these simple tips, no, in a week that dark patch was gone and she had no itch anymore. It wasn't, it wasn't caused by some fungus infection. It was just a common, dry skin. So sometimes we don't see. That's why negotiation is a complex process. We have to see from a bird's eye view. What we see face to face is different from what we see up from up there. All right, we see a different view from if you take a drone and see the situation, you see a different situation. All right, so there it is. Many people are afraid of conflict and negotiation. uh, the first thing is fear. When you are afraid, you can't see rationally. When you are angry, you cannot see rationally. So that is one issue there. Requires behavioral and analytical skills. It means you understand, you're studying human resources management, you're studying organizational behavior, and you're also studying other subjects. So the soft part of management you're studying, and the qualitative part of management you're studying, quantitative, qualitative, everything. So that is why an MBA should be able to understand the behavioral and analytical skills. All right, next we go to the next slide. Always in a negotiation, there are two or more parties, and there's a conflict of interest between them. The next slide I'm talking about. Parties negotiate because they think they can get a better deal than by taking what the other side will give them. See, I suppose I'm buying papayas, I'm standing inside my gate due to this coronavirus. There is the pushcart fellow on the road, and then I tell him, "You give me," and then he gives. I said, I point out and say, "No, the other one," because I always am feeling this is human nature. We feel no, the papaya he must be passing off something that he doesn't want to. He wants to sell off fast, and no, the other one, change this from this inside my gate. This is the way. This is human nature. So, we always feel that whatever is offered to us is not good enough. There must be something else that is better. So that is the issue in negotiation, convincing the other party that this is the best you can get from me and best you can get. Actually, parties prefer to search for agreement rather than fight openly or capitulate. Think, should I not permanently break off contact or take their dispute to a third party. This You see that joke is quite funny. Negotiations occur, one, to create something new that neither party can attain on their own, or to resolve a problem. All right. What do you mean by the first one? This resolve a problem, I already told you. The first one is, see, I'll tell you, John Dunlop was a doctor. Okay. John Dunlop was a doctor. his son came to him one day. See, before it seems, these cycles, no, you have bicycles. They did not have, what to say, tires. They only had stainless steel or iron wheels. Imagine, the wheels were there, but the wheels had only iron or stainless steel rims like that. And you had to cycle on that. Okay, so his son came to him. You understood, no? There were no tires on the cycle wheels. There were only rims, like what you have rims now, circle, iron or stainless steel rims. John Dunlop's son came to him, a small boy, and said to his father, "Dad, I have a cycling competition tomorrow, and my cycle is really hurting me when I go on rough surfaces and all that. It's really hurting me. Can you do something about it?" Because little boys and little girls think their dads are heroes and they can do anything. There's no Superman in the flying in the air. Their dad who lives in their house is a Superman, and that when you're small, your dad is a Superman, isn't it? So he came and said, and John Dunlop was watering his garden with a pipe. Okay, the garden water pipe he was watering. Then he got an idea. He was a medical doctor. He got an idea, and what he did is he cut the tubing pipe and gave the cycle the like what you have the rubber tires now, no? So like the tires with the gardening water hose, he gave the tubing. All right. And then for both, and his son was delighted. It was not hurting him. Even the bumps were not bumping. He was delighted. Next day he sailed through and got the first place. So he was very happy. In the evening, John Dunlop had 4 or 5 or 10 of his son's friends coming saying, "Please do it for us also." So John Dunlop started doing this. Then he developed the tires. Now, what happened is John Dunlop was a medical doctor. He couldn't do marketing. He did not know how to take a patent for it. So he was approached by a businessman whose name I am not very aware, and saying, I will market your tires." So John Dunlop agreed, and I really don't know how the contract was. The patent was taken, and Dunlop tires was developed. But Dunlop tires was marketed and sold by not John Dunlop. I don't even know whether John Dunlop has the patent for it. So see, John Dunlop had the idea to manufacture, but he didn't have the ideas to market it. That is why he required somebody else. And then John Dunlop and this man who saw the opportunity in the market and approached John Dunlop must have had a negotiation. You understand? So this is the second type where you say, "I cannot do this, so let me negotiate with somebody and do it." All right? Okay, Honappa, good morning, man. Okay. So the types of bargaining is distributive bargaining, that is win or lose, labor management negotiations. We'll all know about this labor force and management negotiations. Next is integrative management. That is win-win business negotiations. I will market your product, you produce for me, etc. And I may also help you to produce. I mean, finance produce this one. Um, I'll provide you the finance for production, and you give me the product. I'll market and I'll give you the profits. All right. So cool. I don't like marketing. I don't want marketing. You take the marketing headaches. I like to produce, I will produce. Something like this. Okay. Now, business negotiation can be divided into three main stages. The first one is pre negotiation, where this is the initial stage. Pre means no, prior to. So, it refers to the initial stage when the parties are trying to determine whether they want to really negotiate on the subject or not. They're, testing the waters, whether to jump in or not. Okay, simple. Second is conceptualization. The second stage means the parties are trying to formulate a general concept or formula for their planned transaction. So they have seen the water, it is tepid or cold or warm, and they're making a game plan. And in the detailed stage, The parties work more precisely on the formula that they try and try to define every detail of the transaction as clearly as possible. So finally, you'll have a closing stage, all right, where some negotiation contracts, etc., will be signed. Okay. Now, in the negotiation, you have preparation where you have to identify all the contents of a deal. So you have to read the small print and you have to understand the repercussions of the deal. What can happen? Create alternatives. All right. Alternative plans of action, alternative courses of action, etc. Alternative products maybe. Put yourself in their shoes. What do they really want? They may be saying something but wanting something else. See, I was giving you that example of, sometimes we don't know what we want. One of my friend gave an example. Let's say we'll take a hot place, okay, very warm place. So, okay, let's say um, I want to climb up on my shelves there. You see the shelves up there? This side you see my shelves. Okay, I have some crockery there. I want to climb up. How will I climb up? I try to climb up on that there. I cannot, on the granite stone, and I cannot climb up only because it is at my waist length. So I need a stool to climb up on the granite table. I need to keep a stool down here and then climb up on here so that I can reach these shelves up here. So what do? I want to buy a stool. So people are showing me, you want to buy a stool? Okay, take this, 1,000 rupee stool. It is foldable. It can you can put something on it. You can use it like this. You can use it as a nightstand. You can fold it, keep it under your bed. So 1,000 rupee shoes, and my eyes go wide. All I want is to reach my crockery. Why a 1,000 rupee stool? But I cannot say it. I cannot tell him I want a stool to climb so that I can reach my crockery sets easily. I cannot. Even if I tell, he will not understand. So then he'll show me various stools, 1,000 rupees, 500 rupees. Then he'll show me a 100 rupees stool or 50 rupees stool. I find it is a plastic stool. If it so happened that once I had a plastic stool and the leg would bend, one of the four legs would bend, and I was on the floor. If I was sitting on it and I was moving, one leg would bend out. So imagine if I was on the floor on a plastic stool, how will I climb up? This is in my mind. So see, the person who's trying to sell me the stool, is giving me an expensive stool which I don't want, a very cheap stool which I'm afraid. Maybe I want a iron stool or a wooden stool because it has to be steady. I should not fall. At the same time, I don't want a costly 1,000 rupees stool to climb up and get my crockery. Ridiculous, isn't it? So this is in my mind, but I'm unable to convey. You see, so put yourself as a person who's selling the stool. He has to ask me, what are you, what kind of what are you looking for, and then he has to understand that I want a sturdy stool, but not an expensive stool. So he has to sell me. You see, this is what happens. Yes, Masood. Hello. Gauge the appropriateness of the message. All right. And understand cultural differences. Build up relative power and understand cultural differences. Now, second stage is face to face. Who within the firm should negotiate? See, in the firm, you have to send someone who can do a good job, who has very good interpersonal skills, or who is trained and who knows what he's talking about. He should know everything about the firm. Now, suppose you're going for a deal, then you should know what your company is capable of. You should not make a deal for giving them 1,000 units of, say, every month you are promising them 10,000 units of washing machine you're supplying, and you don't have the capacity to make 10,000, you can make only 8,000. What then? Then your deal will fall through. They'll say, the whole image only will go. You understand? Second, uh, individual versus team, then you have to see what makes a good negotiator, and a negotiator should have patience. See, anyone of you who drives on the streets of Bangalore develop a huge amount of patience in the traffic, yeah, or you get develop the tendency to have road rage, to overtake, isn't it? So you have to have patience, you have to understand, listen, etc. Post negotiation, the agreement has to be fully clear, clarity has to be for the agreement. Please see your slide. And you have to decide first only what can be the good outcome for me. All right, can no agreement be a good outcome? If the agreement is fallen through, is it a good outcome? Or what are the contracts that you are using, etc. So please remember one important thing: separate the people from the problem. You don't like that fellow, no problem. All right. See, yesterday I was reading an interesting article about Dilip Kumar and Madhubala. They were very famous. Dilip Kumar is our old Hindi film star. So was Madhubala. She passed away of a hole in the heart in 1969 at the age of 36. So she was a child star, a very beautiful, graceful film star. If you see her old movies, you'll realize extremely beautiful. She's called the Marilyn Monroe of Indian cinema. So they were saying they were very good friends, and then they had a disagreement during the shooting of the film Mughal-e Azam. Okay, Mughal-e Azam is very famous. It's a very famous movie where they show Emperor Akbar's son, played by Dilip Kumar, and Anarkali, who was supposed to be, one of the daughter of one of the maids in the palace. Uh, the love story between them. So I believe that time there is a scene where Dilip Kumar and Madhubala are shown face to face with a feather in between their faces, because there was no lip to lip kissing was not shown then, and they just showed a feather. I've not seen the movie, but and it made people watchers imagine what could be happening. So Dilip Kumar is said to have said that we were at that point of time, though we were friends, we were so upset with each other, uh, various reasons. There was something like a court case going on in with regard to some other movie where Dilip Kumar supported the producer and Madhubala's father and other were the respondents on the other side. So all this happened, and they were not at all on even saying hi, it seems, to each other at that stage, but yet they performed that scene. So it goes to a lot to say the professionalism of these actors, though they hated each other. I mean, literally were not even looking at each other's face, they performed a romantic scene, and that is a very famous scene, it seems. Maybe you should see it. Okay. There's a feather between their faces, it seems, and that's supposed to be, a very good classy scene from that movie. Mughal-e Azam is a very famous movie. Some couple of years ago, it was a black and white movie. They put color into it. We have Rishi Kapoor's grandfather, Rishi Kapoor, who passed away recently, father of Ranbir Kapoor, the star. Rishi Kapoor's grandfather, Prithvi Raj Kapoor, acting as Akbar. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is separate the people from the problem. All right. Let understand the working issues. Wahidullah, good morning. All right. And then focus on interest, not positions. See, when I was studying, I remember when I was doing my BBM, I still remember my sir, Dr. Devraj. He was telling, I still remember the class. He was telling when we have objectives, there can be, when you're, say, imagine you're working in a company, you have corporate objectives to achieve. All right. Corporate objectives on the company, big company size. All right. Then you have department objectives to achieve. Also, you have individual objectives to achieve. You're thinking of your career, okay, how your career can help your family. So career wise, personal individual objectives to achieve. So he clearly said Your individual objectives, if they clash with the department or company objectives, you don't succeed. Your individual objectives should go hand in hand with the development of the company. For me, my personal objective as for a career as a professor should go hand in hand with the objectives of the development of the department. Otherwise, I'm a failure if I try to go on at a tangent. You understand? That is not, you cannot go at a tangent that is facing away from the objectives of the department or the company. This is very important. Okay, your individual objectives should be in sync with the development of the organization. I'm not going to explain more. I'm sure you can understand. All right. Now, that's what I mean by focus on interests, not on positions. Invest options for mutual gain. I've told you this many times. Win-win situation. You win some, I win some. You lose some, I lose some. It's not that you win everything and I lose everything and said, hi, yes, you have convinced me that I'm a loser. I'm a very good loser. I'm a happy loser and I come. No, it should be win some, lose some. Okay. Shubhakar. Yeah. Shubhakar, Wahidullah, and all of you. Use of objective criteria which are not subject to, see, don't be subjective. Let it be objective. All right. Don't be subjective, and it's like don't get personal also. Okay, some typical features that can form barriers to a successful negotiation are negotiating environment. Imagine you say you come to coffee day, and let's say it is very quiet and all that, and we can negotiate. But coffee day that day is full of students, youngsters who have been due to corona sitting at home, and suddenly they say corona's gone. What a nice situation. Imagine how happy our life was. It's going to come back. So imagine they say you can go to coffee day and have a cup of coffee, and students are making, youngsters are making noise, and you're sitting there. I'm just talking silly thing about noise. It could be anything. See, it could be the intimidation or the uncomfortable nature of the place. The other party, you're going, see, A and B are negotiating. A doesn't want to go to B's company for negotiating, and you're forced to go there. It should be a negative, neutral environment. It is always better to have a neutral environment. Maybe a hotel, a room, not a hotel lobby, a hotel room, a conference room, a business meeting room that hotels provide, something like this. And culture, excuse me, culture determines what time you reach. Um, do you reach in time? Do you reach late? And do you provide some kind of, see, many places in India, when you ask for tea, you're given a glass of water first. All right. And some people say with the tea it becomes, I don't know, it is not good for your stomach, so you eat one or two small biscuits. When you want to have a complete experience of a tea, they say you drink water first, probably to clear your passage, and then when you have your tea, because of the content of the tea giving you some gastric issues or something like that, this is told by a friend of mine, a senior lady, you eat one or two biscuits, and that gives you a complete experience in India. Now, if you see the way Japanese have their tea, the ceremonial tea ceremony, that's different. Now you see so this is what I'm saying. Different cultures are there, the way they do, etc. You go to any village in our country, and you've stopped your car. It's a small village, and your drinking water is finished, and you want drinking water, so you knock on a little hut and say, I want a little drinking water. There's a very good probability that with the drinking water, a small piece of jaggery will come. Means they'll say if you want to quench your thirst, you have to eat a piece of jaggery and drink the water. It will give you a quenching the thirst experience. All right. Especially if you go into this Bangalore to Mysore, all this where they make a lot of jaggery. I took you to that on industrial visit. Our boys, juniors, took you to that Alemane. All right. So this is the way. Ideology. Yeah. Hi Shri. How are you? All right. So I was talking about culture, then ideology. See, there is a case study I read somewhere. It is about American MNC that went into Thailand. All right. So when a new general manager from America came there, he was discussing how to create a better atmosphere with some senior executives. A couple of senior executives and he were discussing how to make the Thailand people who worked for the American company feel that they are part of the company and the company cares for them. So one of the senior executives told them, "See, sir, when we built this factory, we had to destroy, clear some kind of, many things, and one of them was a small temple that was built for a local deity." All right. So I repeat, among when they cleared things like trees, etc., to build the factory, one of the things they cleared was a small temple dedicated to the local deity. So the American said, "Do you have the statue?" "Yes, it is placed somewhere." "Yeah, we found it." And the American arranged for a small temple to be built within the factory near the gate, so that every Thailand employee who comes into the factory could go and do a small worship at the temple before he went to work. All right. So when this was done, the people of Thailand who were Thailand employees, Thai employees, we call them Thai people, not THAI. The Thai people who were employees in the American MNC were very happy. The feeling they got was that these Americans are foreigners, but they care for us and they have rebuilt the temple of the local deity. And it worked wonders for the morale and motivation of the people. All right. So Um, there we are. Ideology. Then foreign bureaucracies and organizations. See, if you look into European Union, they have it is the best form of trade organization because they have a parliament meant only for trade. So if you see like that, uh, suppose I was, let us say, this is my old example. If you have heard me, I'm sorry. You want to take the agarbatti of Indian agarbatti and sell it in one of the European Union countries. Let's say we are taking it to Turkey. Turkey is a part of European Union. So Turkey says, see, what is the problem with the agarbatti? It emits a lot of smoke. All right. So we have to look after an agarbatti, type of agarbatti, which does not emit smoke because we have these regulations. European Union has regulations about smoke emission. All right, and leading to CO2, hot greenhouse gases emissions. They are very strict. So we have to look at the agarbatti where you get okay about the and it has to emit the perfume but not the smoke. All right, and then secondly the perfume. What perfumes we Indians like they may not like. We love rose and jasmine, yeah, but there in the European Union the perfumes are more synthetic or fruity based. If you're seeing that, okay, fruity based, and then yeah, Gaurav, good morning. Yeah, smile. Okay. So fruity based, something like that. So we'll have to customize the non-smoke to the agarbatti to a non-smoking and a more acceptable kind of perfume for the European Union. And once you make that for Turkey, you have made the same thing for the remaining 27 countries of the European Union. As I told you, with the exit of Britain, European Union has come down to 27 countries. There were 28 countries before. All right. So this kind of bureaucracies, organization, foreign laws and government, money, foreign exchange, instability and sudden change. These are all instability and sudden change. Political changes can happen. A government can fall, another government can come, and there will be new rules. See, Kuwait has yesterday or day before, Kuwait Parliament has brought out a new rule. They said out of the total population, Kuwait is a small country. From one border to another border, you know, diagonally you can drive within 2.5 hours. It's not a big country, but it's an extremely rich country. What has happened is the local people used to be taken care of well. The government used to give them houses and subsidies, everything. They didn't even have to work. I remember a student of mine who says, I'm a storekeeper, ma'am. I'm cousin of the emir. I'm a storekeeper. I just do the signing, signatures. I don't need to be there the whole time. I just do my signatures so that I get my, I'm sure the emir, my family has made sure I get my salary. Okay. So this is what he was talking about. And but now, because the crude oil prices have fallen, there is lot of instability in where oil and gas are concerned. The government cannot afford, it seems, not only Kuwait, all the Gulf countries, to give their country, citizens the kind of life they were giving all this time. They want the citizens to work, and the jobs are all with the foreigners. And in Kuwait, the highest population of expatriates are Indians. So they want to bring the expatriates from 70% to only 30%, so that they provide jobs for their own people, Kuwaitis, for example. So what has happened is they are saying 8 lakh people may have to leave Kuwait for good, given that they are trying to reduce. And then this reduction is starting from the lowest class of labor, the unskilled, the uneducated. They are the priority, I believe, that have to leave Kuwait. But then the other issue is the other local Kuwaitis capable of doing the jobs that skilled Indians have been doing. So these are the issues. So when instability and sudden change, I'm giving you the example for instability and sudden change. This happened day before yesterday. It was passed in the Kuwait Parliament. All right. So the rest is all very simple. Okay, and characteristics of negotiations initially can be very slow going. You have to negotiate a lot. Okay, once the most of must haves have been achieved, compromises come into play. See, A and B say A says I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B says I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 6. Okay, so both parties agree and all that. After that come the nitty gritties, the small parts. Okay, all that. Now, turning negotiation into corporate capability, that's the slide I'm watching. Every company negotiates. Few companies have a systematic approach. Okay, you have to create a systematic approach. All right, so you're sure that you have tried all possibilities to getting a very good deal. Partnerships, alliances, and other agreements are done. Then and negotiations are managed at the corporate level. What are the factors that facilitate for successful negotiations? You should have a common goal. As I told you, individual interests or objectives should not clash with that of the departmental or company objectives. They should be in sync. You should, like, when the company grows, I will naturally grow. My salary will grow. All right. And then faith in your problem solving ability. You have to have faith, and that belief in the validity of your own position and the other's perspective. You should be very sure of what you want. You manage something, you get a deal and said, oh, this is not what I wanted. It's be very pathetic. motivation and commitment to work together, trust, clear and accurate communication so that there's no something in black print. Oh, yeah, it is black and white. It shouldn't be white on white, which you can't read. Or it shouldn't be so small that you can't read. They say the small print, So there should be clear and accurate communication. And we have the 7 elements of a good negotiation on slide number 54. Clarify interests, not positions. I explained this to you. Explore the options for mutual gains. Know your alternatives. What are your alternatives? Use standards of legitimacy. Let it not be something under the desk. Communication should be clear. Remember that it is better to have a partner rather than an enemy. And this is achieved, a business partner is achieved in relation building. Make commitments with care. Don't promise something that you can't give. With that, I'm coming to the last slide. That slide has only a thank you. Yeah, class. Thank you for listening. Okay. Now, with this, I will end my class today. So I have finished teaching you conflicts and negotiations. The meaning of conflicts, how that conflicts arise, you cannot help at all. How to manage conflicts, how to resolve conflicts, how can conflicts arise, all this I have taught you. Then the same thing I've done with negotiations. The characteristics, how you have got to face. Conflicts are also complex, negotiations are also complex. How to make them simple? By understanding various factors, by training yourself to become a good negotiator. Also, I also told you sometimes when conflicts cannot be managed within the factory or within the organization, you bring mediators. When mediators are not possible, the lowest form mediators, you have facilitators. When facilitators are not enough, then you go to arbitration. Even the arbitration is like judgment only, but sometimes you may have to go outside the company. Okay. Okay. Thank you too, Zavide. Okay. Beautiful. I'll send you a letter today. I want to draft it myself. Okay. Thank you, class. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Keep your hopes up. That is your strength. Remember, our strength comes from within us. No one can give us strength. We have to understand ourselves and we have to be strong. These are truly difficult times. Me at my age find it difficult to sit at home. I'm restless. I can understand how restless you youngsters must be. But then that doesn't mean you complain. As I told you, it's not survival of the fittest, it is survival of those who learn to adapt. Please eat well, build up your immunity. All right? I am not able to tell you eat fresh, eat a lot of stuff, whatever you are eating, please eat well. All right? Don't in moderate terms eat well, see that you are strong. Okay, for anything we need physical strength along with mental strength. Mental strength, you MBS should develop. It is necessary. Self-control, accepting of self, learning to be quiet with yourself when your power is gone and you can't even see TV, your phone is dead. Then no feeling uncomfortable. Think of something that you can do. See, Shweta was doing some Shweta of the juniors doodling art. So learn something new. Look on the internet and learn something new so that when internet doesn't work or power is there are a lot of power cuts now. Learn, cook something. Cooking is a great art. It helps you not to feel lonely. Especially learn the dishes that your mother made which made you very comfortable. There are some dishes, no? When you were coming from school, your mother made some dishes like maybe, see, I remember that bitten rice, we say poha in English. No, rice is smashed and you get pieces like that, thin, very thin. You get it in 3 types. You said dappa avalakki. Dappa means fat, which you have to soak in water, remove the water, and then so it absorbs the water and it becomes sort of like rice. And then you put seasoning and you eat it. The other one is nylon avalakki. Nylon is very shiny and the thing. You fry it and you make your mixtures with it. Okay. The third one is paper avalakki. In Mangalore, we used to only have paper avalakki. This is flattened, but it is not shiny and not plastic like, nylon like. So this is, you just have to mix some onion, coconut, green chili, that's all, and maybe a little salt and a pinch of sugar, and it becomes very tasty. Okay, my mouth waters. I love that poha. All you have to add is onion and green chili. You smash it nicely. Then you add the poha and squeeze it with your hand. And then you add a grated coconut. It's very tasty. So when we used to come from school, mommy would do one of this was that. Or she did it with, instead of green chili, she did it with red powder, which the masala was, the powdered masala, fried and ground masala. So she would add that. So with onion and coconut. So these were all comfort foods for us. So after school, you've come home, you're hungry, you're back in a atmosphere that you love, and so do something like that. It gives you a better feeling. You won't believe I've been for dinner once or twice. I've been having poha because I like it so much, and my husband also likes it. It gives us back our memories. Or sometimes my mother would boil sweet potato. Sweet potato, she would just steam it, and we would get slices, whole ones, which you have to peel and slice nicely and eat. You know, you could eat it with a bit of salt, and that was also heavenly. Some simple Indian foods. Whatever your mother did when you came from home, or maybe bhajis, onion bhajis, potato bhajis. You just take besan flour, that is chickpea flour. You make it with a pinch of salt, water, and red chili powder. You make it spicy. Cut the potato slices, dip it in that, so that the now don't make the water batter too runny. Dip it in that and fry it in oil. This is called bhajis. Yeah, and or you smash a lot of onion, green chili, and curry leaves along with besan flour and red chili powder, salt. Make it, and then take them and fry them with less water. If you fry, they become really crunchy and they smell divine. So these are all perfume smells of our mummy's kitchen. It always makes you feel good about yourself, and this, I call it comfort food. It makes you go back to, in your mind, to the comfort of your home. Do something like this, especially whatever your mother does. If you can learn, that cooking is very, very nice all through your life. Okay. Yes, I think I should stop now. Bye, class. God bless. Keep smiling. Big smile. I can't. Okay, big smile. Keep smiling. Stay strong. Seniors, I'll be back with you on Monday with a new topic. All right. I'll say bye now. I tried to get FIEO for you, but unfortunately, they said whole of this month they are busy. Um, I called them day before yesterday. I sent a message. I got a message saying they are busy. Okay, there we are. I'll say bye now. God bless. Take care. Love you all. Stay strong. As I said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. These are the times where the tough, my students, you tough people have to get going. Okay? Get going means don't go out. Stay at home. Stay at home. Stay safe. And when you have to shop, don't run out for one green chili. Make a list of what you want and go and buy. All right? Keep as much stock as possible. I know tomatoes and all you can't stock, but you can do without tomatoes. Buy tamarind or vinegar. You can use that. All right. Bye, class. Take care. God bless. Jai Hind and Jai Karnataka.